Ukraine at the present rate at the cost of 50 million Russian lives. So in alternative history, counterfactuals here, we're in crazy country. And I think that that's the thing that's so surprising. And of course, you have to watch the Russian economy. The Russian economy is getting slowly into trouble. It's a very slow dive into a doom loop, but it is there. It is not good.
Also, you just mentioned about Russia's war effort. US President Donald Trump has warned that if Vladimir Putin attempts to conquer the whole of Ukraine, it will lead to the downfall of Russia. Is he right?
I think it's such a high-stakes gamble that Putin is involved in, because I think the warning from the more active of the NATO allies, like Poland and Finland now, the new ally, Norway, and don't discount Denmark and the Netherlands. They're particularly strong as Germany in their stance and what they've committed. And they're saying, if you are really going for a continuous on-off confrontation with Western Europe, which is the declared aim of Putin at times, that he is challenging the West, particularly NATO, but secondarily, and only just second behind, the EU. If he goes on in this stance, how long do you think he could go on running a war economy at this level, running at this heat, with 40% of all public expenditure and budgeting devoted to the war effort? Yes, succeeding at the moment in upping and increasing the production of Shahed-designed drones and so on. But really, and with inflation probably nudging into double digits, 10, 11% at least, and the deficit beginning to appear, I'm not so sure how long this can go. And one of the points of argument, and it's a thing that curiously, I think it worries Trump, is one of the main issues is now the ghost fleets, is the shadow fleet of the smuggled oil. And I think that is going to be a real area of contest. And I don't think Trump likes it very much.
Also, according to Bloomberg, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is confident that his army will be able to break through Ukrainian defense lines and capture the whole 4 regions of Ukraine until the end of this year. What is your reaction to these unrealistic objectives of Vladimir Putin's army?
Well, it is an objective, and as you say, it's very, very difficult, because it's very difficult to see which way the drone war will go, and it is also depends on what I have described to you as the Zhukov, as of World War II, the Zhukov concept of operations, where you sacrifice an awful lot of manpower and an awful lot of equipment. I think you're right to be skeptical. I think they're just closing off. They're about, but with great difficulty, getting control only of Donetsk, I think. Great pressure on Luhansk, and of course Zaporizhia and Kherson. But I think that this is where, particularly as they come up to their NATO summit, the NATO allies are going to be very important in how they think of the next phase of assistance to Ukraine. I think that we will see how this one will go. We'll know it within 6 weeks as to what happens. If we're getting up to 250,000 losses, that isn't just dead, of course, it's a lower figure, but 250,000 Russians killed, injured, wounded, and taken out of the battlefield. If we reach that, say, around early mid-July, I think there has to be a rethink. And one of the things that we have noticed with Gerasimov and his crew, they have been very, very slow and reluctant to rethink their tactics.
Also, however, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has ordered his military to begin creating a security buffer zone along the border with Ukraine, and also Ukrainian military administration says that Russian troops have already seized 4 border villages in the Sumy region of Ukraine in this push to create a buffer zone. However, this advance has been halted by Ukrainian armed forces. What is your assessment of this creation of buffer zone, and what are the main reasons behind Putin's buffer zone inside Ukraine?
Well, this is where I find it very difficult to understand Putin's thinking, because at the same time as you're building the buffer zone here in these different parts along and outside, and are pushing a bit on the line of contact, we see increasing activity with some warning and supported by satellite evidence of building up pressure on the frontier, the borderline with Finland. So is he going to say that the whole barrier from the Arctic, from the Kola Peninsula down south, going all the way through and into the Caucasus is going to be a line of confrontation? Is this going to be a permanently policed barrier? Is it going to require, as Putin has suggested, that he can keep an army continuously of 1.5 million in the field? Very, very big question indeed, because that's going to be tough to sustain, because it will affect standards of living inside Russia itself and the domestic economy. And we are seeing strains of that already. And of course, the other thing about casualty figures is that you get to a critical point. It's very hard to judge exactly where it is. But when you get a significant number of killed and injured, it really does have an effect on the populations of the big cities of the West, the Petersburg complex, Moscow, and so on. They don't seem to have been affected too much yet, but don't count forever. And the other thing is, how long can this cabal, this group, the Sulaki, the securitocracy, as we call it in UK, around the National Security Council, which are really the supporters of Putin, how much are they all going to stick together, or how much are they fighting for their own interests? And it was looking at that, we now understand from a latest study and biography of Prigozhin, that's what it was about, is that he would not accept the sort of the clanism, chieftain, warlord aspect of Shoigu, and the way Shoigu at that time, he's no longer there, of course, but very powerful, the way he was running the Ministry of Defense. I wonder how solid the solidarity of that group really is. I just put that out as a question. And of course, being quite ageist, of course, they're all in their 70s. There are very few young people in the immediate circle of real influence and decision around Putin.
From your perspective, does Vladimir Putin have a way out from this war right now, and how he can he really end this war, even if he would like to do so, due to Russian hardliners and other elements in Kremlin?
I think he's sufficiently vain to think that because he's the smartest guy around, that he thinks he does. And he thinks that his one card, big card on the international scene that he can play, and he's been playing him, but not really played him decisively yet, is Trump. Now, turn the thing out the other way around. They are autocratic, they're very powerful personalities, and each one has to be able to kid himself that he is smarter than the other one. We've seen this actually most conspicuously with Putin at the moment, because Putin has offered talks, and he gives Trump the impression that talks face-to-face, who with whom is never quite clear. Is it Putin and Zelensky, Putin, Zelensky and Trump, Putin and Trump without Zelensky? But it's always there. No, I would consider the ceasefire. And then somebody else comes up, or he would say on Twitter, or Dmitry Peskov, the spokesman, say, well, it isn't quite. There's a bit of a problem here. There's a local problem. And of course, that thing of getting together, which Trump certainly was looking for, it's the thing he loves, getting together with Putin face to face, not just on the telephone. We are nearly halfway through 2025. We're 5 months in the Trump second presidency, and it isn't getting anywhere at the moment. And the thing that the card I think Trump can play in this is bringing the Chinese.